Dan with Pop Smoke Media here with Adriel. He is one of the humanitarian healthcare workers out here teaching first aid and TCCC skills. He has had a lot of experience working in humanitarian and healthcare in the U.S. and abroad. Adriel, how are you doing today?
Very good. Thanks for asking.
So how's been the experience teaching TCCC and first aid and stuff to the people going through this crisis?
It's been a very rewarding experience. I'm just honored and humbled that they would have us and that they want us to do these trainings. The response we're getting from most of the students, some of them are physicians, some of them are volunteer soldiers, nurses, doctors, paramedics. They don't have a lot of experience with some of this trauma medicine, and they're hungry to learn what they can. And we've been received very well by the different staff and groups that have invited us in.
What would you say is the most important trauma care skill to know or to practice for?
The biggest thing I would say would be to learn how to stop bleeding, which would be tourniquet usage, wound packing and pressure dressings, things like that. We also, very important to learn how to apply chest seals, things like that. With all of the gunshot wounds and shrapnel injuries, those are some of the most seen injuries, I guess you'd say.
We've heard that there has been a shortage of medical supplies. What kind of innovation or adapting to the situation have you seen from people who are using trauma medicine in situations that are not quite as prepared as most American military or EMS responders may be accustomed to?
They're doing the best they can. There is a massive need for tourniquets. The tourniquets they have are either very dated or they don't have them at all. So that's one of our priorities with teaching some of this first aid, is to teach improvisation, to do this medicine with the things they have at hand, which can be a little bit of a challenge at times.
What would you say are some of the similarities and differences from your time in Syria?
Some of the similarities would definitely be the way that Russians seem to have no regard for humanitarian workers, hospitals, healthcare facilities, and things like that. It definitely feels the same so far as them viewing that as a logistical or military target. And they have no hesitation to carry out strikes on those targets. Some of the differences would be, obviously the Ukrainian conflict is more of a conventional warfare type of conflict. So I think we're seeing probably higher rates of traumatic death and things like that. Whereas in Syria and some of that, it was more indiscriminate. So sometimes they would hit and kill a couple hundred people, and sometimes it would be 2 to 3 people.
And what would you say are any of the considerations that would be different from providing healthcare in a different climate and terrain?
Yeah, so one of the biggest differences for myself would be temperature. It can get much colder here at night, so you have patients that are already injured, going into shock and struggling with hypothermia. That management is a little harder than in Syria. Other things like, I guess some similarities is we have to manage dehydration. With the cold weather, people aren't drinking enough, and then in the hot weather, people also aren't drinking enough.